The other day, I talked to you about the Project 2025, and I showed you where it was nothing more than a number of people who have been in the Trump administration for a very long time. I think it's the Hoover Institute or Hudson Institute, one of the two. Uh, a number of people who have been in the Trump administration pretty much the whole time. Not people who were fired, but people who were served with him. And then when he lost, when it was taken from him in 2021, some of them jumped into crafting this transition plan. They wanted to hit the ground running in the event of his victory in 2024 and just slam the neoliberal economic brick down on the heads of the people. And that's exactly what that 900-page fucking document is all about. And it was penned by people who are going to be on or already on his transition team. It is his transition plan. They are going to slam the economic brick down on the tops of people's heads, on this country's head, beginning early in 2025, which serves the interest of the fucking World Economic Forum, because it will set this country into a spiral, just like the economic brick did to the people of fucking Chile in 1973, to all 5 Asian tigers, to Russia. Everywhere it goes, everywhere it's used, it makes the rich super rich and the working class and the poor poor. That's what neoliberalism does. It is a poison. It is an economic ideological poison. And it's one of the worst things economics-wise. I mean, maybe, you can go back to the 1600s and 1500s and find a worse economic ideology, but it's the worst that we've known since I've been alive, anyway. I wrote about that and I talked about that and did a video about that. You can go back and look at it. But I wanted to do this video. I wanted to share a video with you briefly. And it's Donald Trump reading off a teleprompter like a hostage fucking video at a gathering of American Jewish individuals looking for their votes. He's telling them things like, he has at this meeting told them things like, it's not on this video, but you elect fucking Kamala Harris and Israel will be gone. The first time he said it during the fucking debate was 2 days or 2 weeks. Now he says 2 years. Israel will be gone in 2 years. If you allow for a U.S. fucking president to influence the stopping of genocide and the killing of children in Gaza and the stopping of an accelerated war in the Middle East with Lebanon, potentially Iran, obviously, Syria, obviously, Iraq, obviously, Jordan, obviously, and Saudi Arabia. You kick off that kind of war, Saudi Arabia is not going to be on our side. That's where majority of our fucking planes and our military equipment are fucking stationed right now. They're not going to... That, according to Donald J. Trump, is preferable to having Israel simply backing out of Palestine and recognizing Palestine as a state and bringing peace to the Middle East. Whereas then, Middle Eastern countries, Islamic countries all across the world, which refuse to recognize Israel as a state, will recognize Israel as a state. That's the worst outcome, according to Donald J. Trump. The best outcome is to continue with this unmitigated violence against the Palestinian people until Palestine is wiped off the map and the genocidal Zionists in Israel and business interests are appeased. Let's also not forget Donald Trump Jr., or the other one, the not his son, but his son-in-law, went to Israel a couple months ago and started looking at property in Gaza that could be developed into casinos and resort hotels and things like that. This is his take. And in order to, and it's also, by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s take. In order to facilitate that, the video I'm going to show you is Donald J. Trump promising the people at this Jewish collection of Jewish people for some campaign rally, promising them he's going to fight against quote-unquote anti-Semitism. And what does he mean by that? He means shutting down the First Amendment rights to freedom of speech and freedom of assembly when it comes to people talking about maybe we shouldn't be allowing and financing and arming a nation state on the other side of the globe to kill children and civilians and women and set off fucking random pager bombs in another country to kick off an even greater war, another war, an even greater war. And his answer to these people gathered at this rally is he's going to, on his first fucking day in office, issue an order to run around and start kicking in doors and rounding up people like myself because we're Hamas sympathizers.
All across our land, you've seen Jewish Americans harassed and attacked and terrorized by anti-Semites and Hamas sympathizers.
That doesn't happen. The ones who are attacked are protesters and demonstrators who were attacked by Jewish individuals, in some cases, Jewish individuals who came over to this country after serving in Israel in the IDF. They're the ones attacking and causing violence and damage and attacks, not peace activists. But this is how he placates. This is how he collaborates with people who are interested in the continuation of the genocidal Zionist campaign in Israel, and they need him to undermine, to throw away, to toss out the freedom of speech and the freedom of assembly and the freedom to redress issues that their government fucking is presenting. Fuck all that, according to Donald Trump, the populist hero supported by people like RFK Jr. and Jimmy Dore, by the way. Is this the populist revolution? Jimmy Dore asked. No, this is MAFA. This is Make American Fascist Again. Or it could be called MAGA, which is not Make America Great Again, but Make America Gilded Again. Let's go back to the Gilded Age, where people like Trump were gods, champions, captains of industry, oligarchs. This is what he's talking about. I would be considered by this individual, because of something I'll show you in a second, but I would be considered a terrorist and an anti-Semite. Because I think that the genocide in Gaza should be stopped. Enough is enough.
I can't believe what we've been witnessing over the last year. Actually, I've watched it in great detail. I've watched it, and I've watched it take place. It's hard to believe, yet despite presiding over this explosion of anti-Semitism.
It's hard for him to believe that young people are peacefully gathering on their college campuses in huge numbers. Because at the time, the number of children killed in indiscriminate bombing by the IDF, children in Gaza, was 13,000. It's hard for him to believe what he's witnessing, that these people would have the audacity to want to stop the murder of fucking children. But he says nothing about the actual murder of the children. That's not hard for him to believe. 675 at best civilians were killed on October the 7th. Many of them killed by the IDF. That is not a fucking piece of fabrication. That is not Russian propaganda. That is not Iranian propaganda. I cite that fact and those numbers directly from Israeli media. The Times of Israel, Jerusalem Post. I cite that from Israeli media, and Israeli media got that information from Israeli politicians and Israeli fucking military leaders. 675 civilians. Of the 1,120 that supposedly died since October the 7th, not 1,200, not 1,800, 1,120. The rest were IDF soldiers. 675 compared to, what are we at now? 30,000 civilians? And the total devastation of at least 70% of fucking Gaza? And of course, starvation being used as a weapon of war. That doesn't raise an eyebrow for Donald Trump. What raises an eyebrow is that people would protest against the continuation of a genocide. And this is the thing that you want to put in the fucking White House, even within your fucking grasp. You can pick up and read the 990 pages of his fucking transition plan, which is just pure neoliberal free market ideology, economic brick, a la Augusto Pinochet, to be slammed down on your heads. And now here's this guy telling you he's going to shut down freedom of speech and freedom of assembly and the freedom to redress the actions of your government on behalf of a foreign fucking nation.
Kamala Harris has done absolutely nothing. She has not lifted a single finger to protect you or to protect your children or to even protect you with words. I'm here today to tell the Jewish American community that this ugly tide of anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas bigotry and hate will be turned back and crushed starting at noon on January 20th, 2025.
Woohoo! We're going to shut down dissent in America just like Bibi Netanyahu shut it down in fucking Israel. Yay! Trump, says Jimmy Dore and RFK Jr. Why is he doing this? Is that typically what Donald Trump does? Just sit there with this fucking blank look on his face and read the fucking teleprompter like a hostage video? No. That's not Donald Trump. Why is he doing it? Because he's paid to. Miriam Adelson plans to spend $100 million boosting Trump in 2024 in exchange for his unwavering support for Israel. Miriam Adelson is the wife of the now gone Sheldon Adelson. And if you think Trump was pro-fucking Israel in his first term in office, and he was, he will be even worse this time around. Sheldon's gone, but she is still a mega billionaire and a ultra Zionist. That is why. That is it. And because he needs those votes. Now, he understands that the majority of Jewish people have, for a long time, voted with the Democratic Party. So he's trying his level best, like, trying to get the alt-left, the RFK Jr. crowd, on board with him, like trying to get the alt-left Jimmy Dore crowd on board with him. He's doing the same thing with the Jewish American crowd, the Zionist Jewish American crowd. Not all Jewish Americans, but the Zionist Jewish American crowd. RFK Jr. recently, and I talked about this, RFK Jr. recently was asked, well, what makes you think he's going to be any different this time? He ran as a populist last time, and as soon as he came into office, he put all these fucking business people in charge of all these fucking agencies in the White House, administrations in the White House, like the FDA and all these things. And they just set forth to privatize shit or to line their own pockets and neoliberalize these fucking... Why would he's not running as a populist. He ran as a populist, but he governed as a neoliberal. Why would that change? And RFK Jr. sat there talking to these two young guys with a table full of products sitting next to him, fucking idiots. But he sat there and tried to explain away, well, I talked to him personally. And he said, but I just didn't understand how it was going to be when I got in the White House. I wasn't prepared, but now I am. His former people are putting together the transition plan called Project 2025 to drop the neoliberal economic brick on the people in this country. And in that document, that 900-page document, one quote states, government doesn't exist. It should all be replaced by business leaders. He's doing the same thing. He's going to do the same thing. Do you understand? There's not an if, there's not a maybe. And this is another prime example of that. It's another prime example of that. Constitutional rights for young people to go to a Trump rally or to go to a KKK rally or to go to a Palestinian rally. The constitutional rights exist. They are real. They are what my father served his entire life in the Navy for. It is an abomination for a president to step forward, or a potential president to step forward and say, I will shut down the First Amendment, all of it, in order to appease you guys on behalf of the interest of a foreign country. That is remarkable. And that is exactly what Donald Trump said. I don't care if he read it like it was a fucking hostage video, which it was. He was being held hostage by the $100 million that somebody was pumping into his fucking campaign just so he can get back in power. And then sit around and eat beautiful cake while his generals decide to bomb fucking beloved fucking generals in Iran. While his staff implements the entirety of the Milton Friedman Chicago Boys economic brick that was dropped on the people of Chile in 1973 right on our fucking heads. And if you're a small businessman and you think somehow or another you're going to benefit from that, You are sadly mistaken. Because neoliberal economic ideology doesn't serve the interest of the small businessman. It serves the interest of big business, and you ain't that. It's all a big club, boys and girls, and you ain't in it. You have to look at the clues. Whether you like them or you don't like them, you have to look at the clues. You have to look at the evidence. And you have to turn off that little part of your fucking lizard brain that wants to believe in something, that wants to believe in heroes, that wants to believe in captains of industry will save us. They're not going to save you. They're going to exploit you. They're going to suck you dry. And when they're done with you, they're going to cast you aside and replace you with somebody else. And that's neoliberal economic ideology. And that, boys and girls, is what he is about to bring to this country. I thank you for your time.